Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 4 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. Today's episode is sponsored by my 3D printing website. Visit dangly3d.com, where we've just released 2 new colors of the regular-sized Karmen Chameleon. You can now get your hands on an orange gradient Karmen Chameleon, the same color as our logo. I don't know why we didn't do this one earlier. I'm also releasing a dark pink that looks amazing. They are both available right now on our website at dangly3d.com. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from the LMG. You want the manual physically? Okay. For context, I just went into my old workplace and remembered this story. 5 years ago, I used to work for a large electronics store in Scandinavia. We sold everything from TVs to dishwashers. Being a physical store, we had a lot of display items and often sold them at a lower price when the product was discontinued. Please note that we rarely had the original packaging or manuals lying around. This will be important. This story takes place a late afternoon about 30 minutes before closing. I worked this shift in the computer department and was asked to help at the camera section of the store, as I was the go-to person for cameras. I was greeted by a couple who I would guess were in their late 50s, and they were looking at one of the display models. I walked them through the camera specs, let them test it out, and explained that while we had all the necessary accessories, the original manual and packaging were thrown away. They seemed perfectly fine with this, especially after I offered them a fantastic deal on the camera. We headed to the checkout, where they paid, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. That is, until the husband turned to me and asked, "Where's the manual?" I was thinking, oh shoot, maybe I didn't explain it well enough. I started to explain again, reiterating that we didn't have the original manual, but that it was easily accessible online. I had even included a link to the manual on their receipt. This was not taken well by the husband, who started raising his voice at me and said, "Online? I bought this product and I want the manual physically so I can read through it at home." Which I do understand, and tried explaining that I normally would print the manual. However, the manual for this particular camera was about 650 pages. Please note that they both are more than capable of looking up the manual, as I saw them browsing the web looking at reviews for the camera. The husband angrily started to berate me for about 5 minutes about how this wasn't a way to run a business and how he wouldn't leave without it. I tried explaining that the manual was 650 pages, how long that would take to print, and we were closing in around 10 minutes. But he was having none of it, and he wouldn't leave without it. Now, I am normally a kind and respectful person, and would do everything to fix a problem. But he was being disrespectful, and I was paid by the hour anyway. So with my best customer service voice, I told him, "Sorry sir, of course the customer is always right," and started printing the 650 pages, while the husband looked smug at me, probably feeling like he had won over the big man. But the thing was, the printers we had at the sales desk were only meant for printing receipts, so they couldn't print double-sided, and though they were relatively fast, they were not 650 pages fast, and only held around 300 sheets of paper at a time. As the minutes ticked by, with each sheet of paper that emerged from the printer, the man's smug expression disappeared. His wife, who had initially seemed passive, began to look annoyed and a bit embarrassed. Then, the printer ran out of paper, and you could see the relief in their eyes as they thought the printer was finally done. But that was quickly gone when they saw me coming with a huge stack of paper to fill it up. 20 minutes and 400 pages in, the wife started to look even more desperate, realizing they were the only customers in a store that closed 10 minutes ago. The husband was beginning to realize his mistake and nervously began to ask when it was done printing. I just smiled with my best customer service smile. We were about 2/3 of the way. He sighed and just continued to look at the mountain of paper that slowly got bigger and bigger. Another refill, and 200 pages later, the husband's defeat was evident. He finally asked if he could just take what had already been printed and leave. But by then, only like 50 pages remained. So I told him, "We're almost done, and I would hate it if you left without the last pages, in case you missed something important." When the printer finally stopped, I handed him the entire 650-page manual, still smiling, and said, "Here you go, I hope you have a great day, and enjoy the camera." They quickly left the store silent and defeated, and I never saw them again. Quick edit to clarify some things: I got paid 1.5 times my wage, plus afternoon add-on, so staying 30 minutes longer was actually a plus for me. I would have loved to say that the manual was in 6 different languages, but it wasn't. But the manual had so much info that is only relevant if you are a professional photographer, which they were not. Oh, and did I mention that I didn't put any staples or holes in the paper? Good luck keeping it together. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Ninja Mac. It says, "We do charge 15 cents per page, so that'll be $97.50. I don't know, OP, it sounds like you kinda rolled over for this customer and ended up costing your company a lot more money in the process. I would have just told them, hey, this is sold as is. If you want one that comes with all the extra stuff, including the box and the manual, well, the new ones are right over here, but we don't have that particular model. So you can choose one of these and you'll actually get a manual." The customer may have seemed defeated when they walked out with their 650 pages in the end, but they did get what they wanted. This story comes to us from Atrocity108. "Okay, HR, he's your problem now." Like some of my previous stories, this tale revolves around my time as a supervisor in a call center, an employee who didn't like me called Jamers, and my malicious compliance with HR. Jamers was a new hire, probably about 21 at the time. Young kid whom you could tell grew up privileged and entitled. But hey, I didn't do the hiring, and everyone deserves a chance starting out somewhere. I just wish this guy was hired somewhere else. Now, I prided myself as being a fair guy, friendly and understanding. Jamers, however, was always the victim, and nothing was ever his fault. Customer complained on his service, not his fault. Incorrect information given, he was told the wrong information. Called off, something had come up beyond his control. On and on it went with him, nothing ever his fault. The issue with me came to a head when I had to correct him on a call he took. The information he gave was so incorrect and potentially damaging to the client, I had to call the client and give them the correct information, while apologizing for the misinformation. Company policy at the time caused this to be an automatic write-up. I brought Jamers to an office, door opened mind you, to tell him he was being written up and why. At first, it started with every excuse in the book. Then, it started with him asking why I was being hostile and mean. I wasn't. And why I was yelling. Again, I wasn't, and the door was left open, so there would have been multiple witnesses. He refused to sign the write-up. That's fine. It would go in his file regardless. As we were done, he marched up to HR. About half an hour later, HR called me into their office. They asked me why I yelled and cussed at Jamers. WTF? Now, my bad for not having another supervisor with me when writing him up, but everyone would have heard me yelling had it happened. I'm a big guy and my voice carries. I denied this, of course. HR told me they were throwing out this write-up since, to them, it wasn't a big issue. This act effectively neutered me, which caused a ripple effect. It was now known if I did my job, HR would just reverse anything I did. HR also told me from here on out, if Jamers had an issue or infraction, they would handle it. Okay, so here is where the malicious compliance comes into play. They had zero idea how many side conversations and other crap I had to deal with when it came to Jamers. Needed to call off? Sorry, go talk to HR. Got a complaint? I'd tell them to go to HR and I'd send them an email why. Requesting a day off to HR you went. It became a fact that HR had to deal with him once to twice a day for months. Anything even slightly minor, I sent him to HR. I know it was driving them insane as they hated to be bothered. Finally, HR asked me to have a meeting with them. They told me Jamers called off and he was going to be put on a final and they wanted me to do it. I reminded them they asked to be put in charge of him. We came to a compromise as I wanted to play nice and said we both would. Jamers was brought to the office and told he was being put on a final for attendance, but it wasn't his fault. He cried he had to go to the doctor. HR asked for his doctor's excuse. He said he would bring it tomorrow. The next day, James came into HR and said, "This isn't working out, I quit." HR got a hint of what I dealt with, and the trash took itself out. I love the justice. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Oxmix74. It says, I was a manager in a department that included a call center. If I tried to solve a problem by pissing off HR, that meant I was going to have two problems. I expended considerable energy to stay on their good side. Okay, I understand that the trash took itself out in this case, but I just feel bad for OP for this whole story. OP had absolutely no pull as a manager in this place because HR completely undermined them. And then when it was HR's problem, OP took one anyway and said, yeah, I'll go talk to him with you guys. OP, it's time to grow a pair. This story comes to us from Plogan56. You don't want to pay the estimate? That's fine, ma'am. Enjoy your day. For context, the software development company I used to intern at uses a sheet to estimate the cost of building a certain software or update for a client. This sheet includes employees working on the project, how long they estimate it'll take, yada yada yada. After an intern goes around to the department collecting this information from the various employees, we then calculate the cost and send it to the client to accept or reject. Note, since our company is so popular in the area, we have a pretty long query sometimes, so if you reject the estimate, chances are you might have to wait in the queue all over again to request a new one. So the day was slow and they mostly had me man the phones and go on coffee runs, typical intern stuff. Then a client calls in saying she wants a piece of clock-in software for her employees so she can more accurately track their work hours. By this point into my internship, I had done at least 4 to 5 of these sheets, at least, and I was taught by my supervisor how to identify which departments would be needed for which projects. So after gathering the details from the client, I hang up and translate the needs for the employees, essentially explain it in programmer jargon. Half an hour later, I'm done with the sheet and I have checked the calculations 3 times, so I email it to the client, and I swear, not even 2 minutes later, I get an estimate rejected message on the company smartphone I was given. She added a reply stating, "This estimate is non-compliable with me," so I responded to it with, "We're sorry to hear that, ma'am. Please enjoy the rest of your day." And then I go about my business. Roughly an hour later, she emails the phone again asking, "Is that all you have to say?" By this point, I realized what she is trying to do and reported to my supervisor that Miss Karen was trying to haggle the price. My supervisor calls Karen's phone and asks if she would like to have the estimate resent to her so she can accept, and Karen outright tells her she wants a cheaper price. To which my supervisor tells her the price is non-negotiable and to take it as is. So Karen uses her signature move of, "Let me speak with your manager." But my supervisor simply informed her that she'd get the same response and just hung up on her. Karen eventually did call back and even showed up to the building to renegotiate the price, but was shot down. But she was able to get a meeting with the manager to file a complaint for poor customer service and unprofessional behavior. My supervisor and I were called in and asked for our side of the exchange. We just gave them the chat log and proof that she rejected the estimate initially sent to her. She had no color in her face after those came out and couldn't even look at him. She was given a blacklist for us and recommended other companies. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Contrantier. It says, so she basically filed a complaint against herself to your company for her unprofessional behavior and got blacklisted as a punishment. What a loser. OP responded and said, exactly. I still remember being called into the office. She had this smug look on her face like we were going to be publicly flogged or something. I absolutely love the way they dealt with Karen in this case because they decided they didn't want to work with Karen, but they'd be delighted if Karen hired one of their competitors. It was like she was being used as a weapon against their competitors. I love it. Don't you wish you could just respond to these Karens in the way you really want to? Like, hey, Karen, let's start at F no, and then we'll work our way up from there. This story comes to us from Vermin Jerky. If you insist, sir, I hope you like pink. I've worked my way up the ladder at the company where I work, but when I started, I was a support agent. By the time this story happened, I was a team lead of some kind. I don't remember which. What matters is that I still work directly supporting customers, but I also had a fair amount of agency. I didn't have to ask for permission or assistance to do anything related to my job. We're a software company, but we used to sell a specific small Bluetooth accessory that worked with one of our apps. It came in several bright colors and we sold multi-packs. It was the kind of device you might need more than one of, and it was a popular gift. One year during the Christmas season, our manufacturer effed up gloriously. They didn't deliver all of the inventory we were supposed to get, and worse, much of what we did get was messed up and had serious defects. It was a horrible mess and a serious detriment to our small company. I was on the front lines of cleaning it up. We wound up severely backordered at the busiest time of year, having sold units that should have been delivered, but that we either never received or found to be defective upon arrival. We had to contact people and let them know their orders would be delayed until after the holidays. Some people wanted refunds, some people wanted their items late. We tried to be helpful and bent over backwards to be apologetic while trying to keep this debacle from becoming a catastrophe and incentivize people not to cancel. There was one man who wanted us to perform magic, however. He wanted his order, our largest multi-pack, and he wanted it now. I don't know how many times he contacted us, but I wound up being the only one to deal with him because he'd always be escalated to me. I told him over and over again that we couldn't send his order, even though we very much wanted to, so we'd be happy to refund him. If he wanted to wait, there were many others ahead of him to get their orders. He demanded that he get his order first. He didn't care who else had to wait. He would berate me and try to literally command me to do as he said, almost daily for a while, no matter how many times I explained why I literally couldn't. Eventually, I opened the spreadsheet where we were keeping our back orders and moved him to the very bottom. Yeah, I was prolonging my own suffering, but he had me feeling petty. After the holidays ended and upper management waged a nuclear war with our manufacturer, usable stock started rolling in. I bumped a few deserving or eager customers to the top of the list, but mostly sent them out in order. He's the only one I bumped down, but I had something ready for the next time he decided to scream at me. When he inevitably did, I told him we had stock, but others were receiving theirs first, and we hadn't yet gotten in the colors he ordered in his multi-pack. I was sort of planning to do what I did anyway, but he was kind enough to give me explicit permission. I don't care what colors you send, you're to send them to me immediately. Our colors included Susan G. Komen pink. The customer was gloriously smug and condescending when I told him we'd go ahead and fulfill his order right away. He definitely thought he had won some kind of victory, but sure enough, the day his package arrived, he sent an email complaining. I know I said I'd accept any color, but really? You sent me, a man, an order of nothing but pink? I want these replaced. Send me something else. I told him that's all we had available for him and that the conversation was over. And so it was. I never heard from him again. It took a few years before I brought it up, but I've told that anecdote at workplace meetings a few times, including to my boss, the CEO. I wouldn't take another support job to save every orphan puppy on earth, but that story was worth the misery. Always be nice to support agents for your own sake. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Goat Felon. It says, "Of course this dude is upset by pink. When my Bluetooth headphone batteries are dead, in a pinch, I wear my wife's. Bright pink with cat ears and all. Sometimes get looks, but I think I look cute." Another commenter called Cool Beans Chili said, "The thing is, before World War II or so, red was considered a masculine and powerful color, and pink was considered a shade of red. It's funny how things change. Some people really don't understand that you can catch more flies with honey rather than vinegar. It really doesn't take much effort to be a nice person when you're talking to a customer support representative on the phone. And if you're nice to them, they'll generally be nice to you and be more willing to help you out with whatever you're calling in for." If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.